Hello party people. I'm making a review about this game not because I want to, but because I have to. You see, there's a character who takes bondage very seriously and, like the Spanish tradition commands, they animated him passionately scratching his balls. That, and they are making a very expensive board game, which is exactly my kind of nerdism. Like many, the first thing that brought Blasphemous to my attention was the giant blind baby in the reveal trailer that violently and graphically rips apart our protagonist, Traffic Cone Man. What kept me intrigued though was the beautiful art style, sound design, music, gameplay, and the deranged Spanish world building. This game has been out for quite a while and many have already given their opinions on all of those aforementioned aspects. At least I think so. I don't speak Italian. I want to start by looking at something that most reviewers turn a blind eye to. The team behind the game kitchen, the kitchen that cooks the game, and their inspiring story. After making their first real indie title, The Last Door, a low-res, high-suspense horror which didn't really raise any money, they still found themselves convinced that this is what they want to do: create games in a basement. These people struggled, starved, and animated with one hand to make this game work. People joined, people left, doors were ripped out of abandoned buildings to make tables. I'm not joking.
Tenía una mesa de esa puerta y una puerta arrancada de una casa que no está ni pinta. Y tenía un lado cool, romantic.
The producer of Blasphemous, Mauricio Garcia, only came to be in that role because the studio couldn't find anyone from outside to do it. So he just said fuck it and studied 1.5 years to become one himself. As one of the most popular makeshift creators myself who has been in some indie productions, this stuff hits home. If it doesn't work, we have to make it work, because otherwise the whole project will implode, which is not good if you have already sold your kidney to finance it. What ultimately saved the Grand Blasphemous was showing a tiny amount of it to the public via Kickstarter. Unlike other game studios out there,
on Assassin's Creed Shadows, we don't disclose units sold.
Game Kitchen knew that the mass of sweaty gamers could be convinced to give them their bananas if they were clear and upfront with what they had and what they can do. They had the concept down, they knew their strengths, and they showed them. And the apes were pleased. After only 24 hours, the goal of 50,000 euros was reached. After 48 hours, it was doubled. 100,000 doubloons! This is the most money a Spanish video game ever raised on the Kickstarter platform. Utter insanity. Inspiring stuff. Great work. I think I'm having a stroke. In all seriousness, I urge you to watch the whole Landing Blasphemous documentary if you have played the game or are generally interested in how indie games are created, marketed, and published. It's free on YouTube. It's just filled to the brim with passion and love, but also the reality of it. My favorite moment was them reacting to their Indie World trailer, which, fittingly to the chaos of the entire project, displayed the wrong release date.
Hostia, puesto la fecha mal.
Anyway, now that we have this sob story out of the way, let's get into the meat. Coming from a household where my mom shoved the NES controller into my hand at age 4 and told me to beat The Legend of Zelda and Super Metroid, I am no stranger to gaming bullshit. Many say that Blasphemous is a hard game through and through. I disagree completely. It ramps up. Your first playthrough will be like riding a bike with training wheels until they are ripped off when you throw the local ashman a bone and attempt to grave rob a young maiden. This encounter is entirely optional, but beware skipping it. You will be called a noob by basement dwellers on subreddits for the rest of your life, and if you really want to earn their respect, you will have to beat New Game Plus. No more bikes, child. Go on the motorway with your Harley and flip off the locals. Overall, we have the standard Metroidvania experience. You jump, dash, and wall climb your way through the environment while executing your enemies. What? No double jump, roll, or air dash that I can constantly spam to make it feel like I move faster? I hear you cry out into your monitor. Don't you worry, you can have all of that and more for only $22.79, Jimbo. Now get lost, the adults are talking. Sometimes you fall into the insta-death spikes and pits, and remember you haven't encountered a checkpoint in quite a while. Sob a little and continue on. What I dislike is that moving onto a ladder or wall while avoiding aforementioned death traps requires breaking my hands. This could be a me problem though, since my hands are bigger than the feet of the blessed Lord. Another thing that grinds my gears is instantly dying when entering a new room. Near the end of the game, there's an area called the Archcathedral Rooftops, which tests everything you've learned and also your patience. For some reason, they thought it would be okay to put a pit at the immediate start of a room. So, once you enter and move, you die. Now, the funny thing is that they fixed this problem in the same area by not letting the player move for about a second when entering a new room. Why not here, Game Kitchen? I fall into that pit in every single one of my playthroughs because I forget about it. There are enough routes and options to keep it interesting for the player and make every run a bit more unique. If you choose to go up first, you're going to a more advanced area, get some defensive equipables and the Immaculate Bead, which you will need for one of the endings, before fighting the Lady of the Charred Visage. If you go straight ahead, you will fight a pretty easy boss, 10p dead, get a beginner prayer and an item which extends your health bar a bit. If for some twisted reason of fate you decide to go downward, I am so sorry for the traumatic things you will experience. And welcome to Blasphemous. Now that I've already mentioned some bosses, I also want to quickly say that they are my highlight of every run. If you have played the game enough, they become like fun visual cutscenes where you button mash attack while occasionally moving some pixels to the side. There are also some minor upgrades and equipables which let you make builds for specific situations. I didn't really care as much about that as I could have. Some people go wild with it though. Before the DLCs, there also was no fast traveling from shrine to shrine, just these hand portals which were scattered across the map. I'm really glad they added the donation upgrade system which lets you unlock the shrine travel though. Seeing Alberto and your shrine grow from fighting and robbing people really makes you feel like an up-and-coming tax collector. Speaking of taxes... Actually, let's not talk about taxes. I don't know where I was going with this. There are 3 DLCs in total and all of them are free. The Stern of Dawn. This one felt like a test run with many annoying aspects. The bosses are very repetitive and somehow the final boss is easier than the previous ones. What? There are some good parts though. The added OST is great. Gibrel reminds me of my orchestra days of playing the euphonium. They also added a dog, which sometimes just shows up and you can pet it. 10 out of 10. Drive and ruin, pure evil, platforming, ladders, thighs. Wounds of Eventide. The best one in my opinion. Finished the story of Blasphemous and gave us cool lore drops. There are new areas and bosses that blend in perfectly with the rest of the game. Snake. Blasphemous takes something beautiful and twists it into something horrible. The issue is you can't look away because the beauty that once was is still there. Underneath it all. Seeing NPCs who help you through your journey die horribly is not a new concept, but the art and voice acting delivers something deeply passionate to make you mourn. The pixelated style gives a feeling of censorship, like China, which makes your imagination go wild. For me, the best kind of horror is the one that makes you fill in the unknown parts yourself, creating things only your imagination could dream of. My first playthrough was in English, but I recently replayed the game in Spanish and it's honestly way better. It completes the erotic horror imagery by making me want to have sexual intercourse with audio files. The architecture you see throughout Blasphemous was taken from real-life Spanish churches and pavilions in the city of Seville. The producers also were inspired by Spanish folklore, like a snake living in the sewers that kidnapped children, which became Snake. I absolutely love it when people take stuff from their home country and just say, that's a thing. You know, like in Germany when there's a monster who eats children. Like, there are a lot of monsters who eat children in Germany. Now, the story of Blasphemous is a little confusing to some, but I'm gonna give you a brief summary. Of course, there are spoilers for the rest of this segment, so be warned. Escriba was the head of the religion whose main religious entity was known as the miracle. Now at some point, Escriba didn't like the miracle anymore, so he sat on his stool with anger. The miracle got a little frustrated with him, so they turned him into a giant tree and burned him. You follow me? People got greedy and wanted the Escobar stool for themselves, but they tripped and fell into the tree ash under the stool and became the monsters we fight. The miracle then got bored, so they chose a guy from the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrow who couldn't speak back to their weird-ass requests as the new head of religion. But they must first walk the path of penance. A familiar scholar of the miracle told him all this, and Trafficon man produced mea culpa from a stone, and the scholar said, "Man, you are very cool, you are the penitent one," giving him his classic nickname. Some stuff happens. We kill 3 people, we meet Bowl-Cut Man, we kill 3 other things, we meet Blind Traffic Cone Woman, we meet the resurrected Escobar and kill him, and then there are a few endings. Number 1, sinking into the ash and dying like an idiot. Number 2, we rage bait monsters, collect all the guild from the land, sit on a stool, and become a cooler tree who frees all from the guild of the land. But this was a set path by the Miracle, who is stupid, so we don't like this ending. Number 3, true DLC ending. We get much higher, going to the other side of the dream and killing Escape Spacebar for real. We then meet the entity behind the Miracle, the Higher Wills. We are joined by our traffic cone sister, and the Higher Wills sense we are here to kill them. So they say, "Nah, that's a sin." But we kill him anyway, and then the penitent one dies. I don't really get why. At the end of our journey, there's a sneak peek where we see a fetus in the sky. This is of course a reference to Game Kitchen's collaboration with Kojima Productions and a teaser for Death Stranding 2. At this point we are pretty far into the video and I basically said everything I wanted to say about this game, but I was really interested in how other people perceived it, so I went to the only gaming journalism source I fully trust. Steam reviews. I honestly wanted to make a little segment here where I read some reviews and make some funny quips at them, but every bad review I found was either completely deranged or just people who don't like Souls-likes and Metroidvanias who still purchased the game for some reason and then were surprised when they didn't like it. There's one good review I agree with where you can obviously see that the person writing has played more Metroidvanias than Hollow Knight and has more than one brain cell. But it's actually not the one on the screen right now, it's this one. Anyway, for now I bid you farewell, party people. I must return to the streets again to get run over by German automobiles. Adios.